Hello, it's Drew from Carfection. We would like to try out a new show format to put in front of you and get your honest feedback about. We've had the idea to talk about our favourite car movies and break down some of the car stunts and the cars used in those stunts to really get into the nitty-gritty of how they were done, how stunt drivers do what they do, and generally just get to talk about our favourite kinds of movies. The idea being that we spin this out into a regular show format, but we're only going to do it if you enjoy it. So please have a watch of this pilot and give us your honest feedback in the comments below. And if you do like it, then with some creative little tweaks to it, we can turn it into a full series. But without further ado, here's our latest show from Carfection. Hello and welcome to Carfection's At the Drive-In, where we take one of our favourite automotive feature films and go into a little bit more depth. Joining me in the director's chairs on my left is Mr. George Collado, pro driver and friend of the channel, and Mr. Rory Reid on my right.
No intro for me?
That's all you get.
That's it.
That's all you get.
I'll take it.
The movie we're looking at today is Baby Driver. Directed by Edgar Wright, came out 2 years ago and based almost literally off of a music video that he made a few years earlier with Mint Royale. But we're here to talk about the movie. Now, first of all, George, as a pro driver, just globally looking at the whole movie, does this speak to you as a movie lover, or as a car person, or both? Does it tick boxes for you?
It is very, as far as modern movies go in terms of driving scenes, I think this opening one especially is awesome.
From your point of view, what did you think of it when you first saw it?
I really appreciated the fact that they had gone to so much detail in delivering such amazing stunts, and a movie based around getaway driving, I think, is always very welcome in my book.
So for me, what was quite interesting was when the film was first being teased was the choice of car, and the getaway car in the first one is the Subaru. Is that what you would associate as a getaway driver?
I had a problem with this straight away.
Okay.
I mean, if you're a getaway driver and you're trying to get a bunch of people away from a bank as quickly as possible, you do not go for a Scooby. I'm sorry, a bright red one.
I think I've got more of a problem with the colour than the car itself.
Well, yeah, you want to get yourself a sleeper, get yourself an Audi RS6 or something that kind of blends in but has the performance. You don't want a bright red sports car.
I would definitely go for something like that. But I know that in this instance, you know, Edgar Wright, obviously the director, he wanted to appeal to sort of a younger audience as well, and he thought of the car as a car that looked cool on a poster of a movie, if that makes sense. So obviously being a red car and being like a racy looking kind of car, if you know what I mean.
It is, but I think that the Scooby looks coolest to people who are already in the know. I think you have to have a certain enthusiasm for cars already, because I think, especially in the States, that Subaru has a bit of a reputation as a certain kind of car, and not necessarily as a getaway driver's car, like not quite that sexiness. But outside of the US, in Europe and countries where maybe rallying is more popular, and people like Colin McRae are like more well known.
Absolutely.
That Subaru does have this kind of attitude, so it feels like a very European choice in an American movie.
For sure,
which makes it stand out even more.
Yes, yeah.
Which again is not what you would want when you're robbing a bank.
The other thing I had a problem with was, and you might be able to enlighten me a little bit on this, but this is an all-wheel drive car.
Correct.
Okay, and in the movie they kind of set out originally to have these outlandish stunts which were going to be performed by a rear-wheel drive version of this.
This is it. I mean, in productions of this size, as you know, the production team have at their disposal a number of variations of the same car. So in this movie, for example, they have a standard WR. It's actually a WRX with an STI body kit for those beauty shots that you've just seen outside the bank, where he's just there, you know, tapping away, getting a bit freaky. And then they had an actual souped-up version with 380 brake horsepower. So the standard car is 300 brake. So they had a souped-up version with 380 brake, a fly handbrake, and shorter gearing and everything, just to kind of for those stunts with more dynamic driving. Then they had a rear-wheel drive version, exactly like I said, because it's very important when you want to get those long sort of progressive slides to have a rear-wheel drive car. And then they had another, like an auto, just for a jumping scene.
So that's the point I'm trying to make. Like, why would you go ahead and choose an all-wheel drive car knowing that it can't perform the stunts that you want the driver to perform in the first place, and that there will be compromises.
Yeah, I mean,
you can pull it off to a certain extent.
Of course, and it's funny that you mentioned that, because one of the reasons why this first scene is so incredible, when you know, is that a lot of these scenes in big movies and big Hollywood movies are obviously shot out of sequence, and the rear-wheel drive version of that car that they had pinned down to basically do this first sequence, this first J-turn, which is the logic choice, obviously, because you want the car to get a nice sort of slide coming out of it. The rear-wheel drive car it actually broke down on a previous scene that they had been filming, so that scene is actually done with a standard WRX, four-wheel drive Subaru, which is pretty incredible when you're from a driver's point of view. When a director asks you, can you just go there and do a huge drift with this four-wheel drive car that is not designed to slide progressively? You just think, oh god, it's just not going to look as good as you think it's going to look. But they had no choice. They had that location for a day, and Jeremy Fry, rightly so, as you should, just said, let's give it a go, and they did.
And he pulled it off, but they tried to deceive people.
Edgar Wright would have picked the car before thinking about the stunts.
Correct.
Am I really going to be able to do that? Because as good as directors are, you're going to need a stunt coordinator to basically tell you what is physically possible. And almost everything stunt-wise in this is practical in-camera.
99% of it, yeah. I mean, I think all the CGI stuff that was used was purely to enhance the look of the footage, not necessarily. None of the driving is actually done. It's not computer generated in terms of driving, so to speak.
Well, do you want to talk us through what's actually happening here?
Because it's quite frame by frame.
Yeah. So he's put it in reverse here for starters.
Yeah.
So
the keen eye will notice that as soon as they're coming out of the bank, he's already got it in reverse. And when they get in the car, the clutch is down. He revs the car. He starts revving the car and then just dumps the clutch like there's no tomorrow. So, if you notice it, the keen eye would have noticed that he was going to do a reverse takeoff. Now, if a reverse takeoff is happening, there's going to be a J-turn. So at this point, what you see him doing there is just sort of literally yanking the wheel as hard as you can, because the trick to sort of...
I hope it's the wheel. I mean, look on his face, it could be anything he's yanking.
I would say, obviously this could be just a case of the edit alludes that he's pulling the handbrake. It's not always necessary. In fact, a lot of the times you don't want to be pulling the handbrake because you don't want to be locking the rear wheels. You want the rear wheels to be there for you to pivot around, if that makes sense. Whereas if you just pull the handbrake, you're just going to start sliding backwards, if you know what I mean. But at this point, regardless of whether they use the handbrake or not, he's just yanked the steering wheel to the right. That just generated that momentum for the front of the car to come around. And here, what's crucial here is because, again, this is a four-wheel drive car, so it is a little bit more difficult to do this than if it was a rear-wheel drive car, is at this point, he's broken traction. So now that he's broken traction, he needs to keep it broken, if that makes sense. So if you go forward a few more frames, you can see there that the smoke coming off these tyres, the rear tyres and the front tyres, are simply because the car is being dragged sort of sideways, if that makes sense. And you see from there, straight away, the wheel starts spinning. So he's not even fully come around yet, and he's already flat on the power, because you want to keep the rear wheels spinning to keep the slide going. So that's what initiates the forward slide, if that makes sense.
So will if he already, as soon as he's got the clutch down, have already floored it so that when he pops the clutch?
Pretty much so. As he's flicking the car around here, a lot of the times what you do is, again, depending on the pattern of the gearbox, you go from reverse straight into second. So instead of going down and then up to first, you might even be going too fast for a first gear, so you just go down straight to second, because then as the car comes around, you can be on the power, flat out straight. You just dump the clutch and stay on and get back on the power. And again, keep the rear end sliding. So
and because he's got his foot buried, he's able to continue that rotation round rather than a traditional J-turn, which would be going backwards and then continuing in that direction.
If he was actually stopped at this point and he's tried to initiate a drift from a standstill, all four wheels would try and grip the tarmac, if that makes sense. But by using having broken the traction and using that momentum, if he gets on the power there, the rear end just keeps on sliding. Will just keep on sliding out of the J-turn.
It does beg the question, though, if he knew all along that he was going to go backwards, why didn't he just turn the car around to face the way that he planned to go all along?
Actually, that is a very good point. I hadn't thought of that. Maybe
I guess it looks cool.
That doesn't look like that baby-looking chap we just saw sat in the car a minute ago. Well, it looks a bit like him.
He looks a bit like him. He's got the fair hair and the sunglasses. But we know it's the stunt driver and the stunt
Jeremy
coordinator.
in a mask, or not even. He might not even be wearing a mask. He might, the sunglasses. To be fair, help cover up quite a lot, and the wig. They do a lot of the job for you.
Obviously, they need to use these masks so they can use a stunt driver to take to do the stunt, because it would take you years to train a driver to get to that level.
They did let Ansel do a couple of the driving bits apparently. So he says.
Well, I would say so too. Going, yeah, that's me. That's me. Yeah, that's me. Stunt driver did a little bit of that, but that's me. Whether it's a mask or whether it's just a disguise or a wig or whatever, I'm more concerned about what's playing the other people. So John Hamm should be sitting directly behind him.
He's having a
in
snooze
this frame.
in the back.
You see, he is. You just see just here. I don't know what that is, but he's way too chill for someone who's in the getaway car, and just seems to be off in one corner, not exactly engaged in the getaway. And the further you come around, the less it looks like a human being. I think the worst one is also your head here would have been flying out this way at this point. You'd be struggling to keep yourself upright. But moving a little bit further, I think this is the closest shot we get of what is probably a dummy right there. So this is arguably the second part of this two-part stunt where he's continuing this drift round. But because it's all-wheel drive, it's...
One of the things that I would point out here that I think is quite crucial is because it's four-wheel drive, again, and especially with modern cars where you know even if you turn the traction control fully off, because it's four-wheel drive, the moment you're having a bit of a skid, the car thinks, okay, well, panic, send the power to the front wheels, let's get this car nice and straight. So that's made it even worse if you start applying opposite lock. The car just goes, okay, this can't happen. So the trick is to actually not apply too much opposite lock. So just keep the rear end sliding, and just you can see that he's barely got any right hand lock at all. And by this point, he's already straight.
He's already corrected it out.
So it might be because there's a very expensive camera right there, or because he wants to just keep that slide going. Because to be fair, this is Hollywood; they could have just disengaged the differential.
We've all driven cars that are being filmed. In high-speed circumstances.
Sure.
You were more extreme circumstances than us. Have either of you ever got a car this close to a camera, especially when it's going sideways? Because that feels like it's down to a matter of inches there.
Yeah. Shout out to Brad Lawson.
Not always on purpose, but
yeah, of course.
Yeah. What they'll tend to do, in my experience, is they'll draw a line, and the camera car will stay on this side of the line. And if you're doing a stunt,
that's great if you've got a driver who is able to decide which side of a line to stay on.
Yeah. Well, some of us drive within our capabilities, Drew. Others, not so much.
When there's human beings at stake or camera equipment, which we've had to pay for, then I am more careful. But close is fast. And you can make a slower passing look faster by getting closer. Yeah. The closer you are, the faster it looks. And this, because the car is going mostly sideways, the actual speed that the car is moving at won't be 90 miles an hour.
Not at all.
But because he's so close to the camera and the camera car is moving at the same time, whether it's a Russian arm or...
It's exactly that. Yeah. So this was shot with a Russian arm. So basically a big, expensive camera at the end of a boom pole on top of a very expensive car with a lot of power. And you can make this look a lot faster by the speed of the camera car as well, obviously. So
it's going in the opposite direction here.
And going in the opposite direction. So
sometimes you can apply a trick where you zoom in to make it look like you're much closer, but you can see quite a lot of the car.
It's quite a wide lens.
Exactly. They're cutting it fine there.
I don't believe that there's any zoom change over this as well, because the shot. Oh no, there you go. There is a zoom, so they
actually pull out.
Yeah, they pull out to.
So this is sort of done on the longer lens, it looks to me, to start with, and then just pull out to get the car in shot, if that makes sense.
So this was shot on film, which means that they would have had some flexibility in scanning it at a higher resolution to then push in. So I'm not sure whether they would use a lens that would zoom. My gut instinct would be that you use a fixed prime lens, a lens that doesn't zoom, and then use post-production to zoom in. If we were doing that on Carfection, I think that's how we would do it, because this is such a... you mentioned to me that they only did 2 takes of this.
Yeah, apparently this was the second. They did the first one and they were like, yeah, okay, that could work. And then the second one is what we see here. Just going to say, whoever owned that car beforehand was clearly a smoker. heavy smoke.
Filthy, isn't it?
Yeah, I guess that's the point. The idea is that he boosts a car,
Exactly.
a stolen car. Yeah, or someone who had their head on fire.
Yes.
That is well spotted. I hadn't actually noticed that the first couple of times I saw this movie. Now this sequence isn't over because
No, that's just the beginning.
the chase continues and it arguably goes into the bit that I prefer more. That is. Well,
Yes.
we're coming up to it in just a second, but it's the scene with the bin truck.
Correct, yeah. That is, I mean, in terms of logistics-wise, I mean, you saw that. That was a lovely rear-wheel drive
Yeah.
slide, so you can tell that was a rear-wheel drive,
That's
rear-wheel
actually
drive car.
That's worth looking at just in a second because we were saying about how there were. So this would have been one where the rear-wheel drive car was available.
So this right here, this is a classic handbrake turn, clutch down, pull the handbrake, the rear end starts sliding, and then you just get back on the power, and you just keep it going. And it's you know, that's essentially what the rear-wheel drive car is for. There is just to get those really nice slides.
And for the record, that car is not available with rear-wheel drive.
No.
So again, we saw it sliding around quite nicely in the previous section of that scene.
Yeah,
And then Hollywood.
not a standard though.
I'm loving this lens flare. Bang! That is some Michael Bay level. J.J. Abrams.
It's just because of
lens
the
flare.
police car. That's
Yeah,
going
it's just
after
to
him,
suggest
and
that
it's
it is
just to
actually
suggest
there.
that he's hot on his tail.
So are they interchanging in these shots between these different variants of the cars?
Correct, yeah.
that you
So
mentioned
obviously
to me
all
that,
the cars look the same on the outside, but on that previous scene that you see with the rear-wheel drive car doing that nice slide, you wouldn't be able to do what they're about to do now as easily. Probably not. You probably wouldn't be able to do it, but certainly not as easy as they managed to pull it off here with a rear-wheel drive car. So this is now back to a four-wheel drive car.
This stunt doesn't resolve the way I think it's going to. When I watch it, every time I think it's going to resolve itself differently, but then it actually does.
There's
I mean, to me, I think he's going to continue the rotation in the same direction,
Yeah.
but he doesn't. So
there's a lot of crazy physics going on.
okay,
there.
so let's break this down because this was also one of the shots that was shown off in the trailer, I believe.
And it's
quite
worth
early
mentioning again that there's no CGI in that scene. So that is real driving done by a real person. And they sort of tried it out in a car park first. They mapped it out, tried it out in a car park, and they were like, okay, this is possible. It can be done. And then I think it took them about 6 to 7 takes to actually set everything up and just drive through it, because you would always do like a bit of a test drive. And then another 6 or 7 takes to actually get it. So as he comes in, you can see straight away, you see tyre marks.
That's bravery, because he's already committing to a slide, and it doesn't look like the car's got much room to rotate, to fit through the gap.
And you can see that, that that's going to crash, isn't it? You just look at it and you think, wow, he's going to have a crash right there.
Also, that van looks like it's got its reversing lights
Yeah.
on.
Yeah, it's pulling back.
Yeah, so how is this real, or is
That
this
looks like CGI right there, doesn't it?
Jiggery pokery. That doesn't look real to me.
That looks like an accident, and then he's through it.
And then he's through it.
Like it scraped the bonnet clean off.
So, again, it could, obviously, in post, they could have added all these elements. But I believe that the mattress van there was not added in CGI.
Because that would make sense, because that, I mean, as a professional driver, that does not look like he's cleared that gap to me. Okay, so we think that this truck that's backing into shot might be added, but this is all real from here on out, we believe.
Yeah.
So what's happening right at this moment to the car? Because to me, that already looks, if I got into that position with that car like that, I'd be like, yeah, I'm going to hit many, many things.
So again, at this point, obviously, he's pulled the hand. He's literally went on the clutch. They show it, so it's very detailed how they. So obviously, to pull a handbrake on a rear-wheel drive car or on a four-wheel drive car, you have to depress the clutch because, it's a live axle that otherwise, it wouldn't work. So he goes on the clutch, pulls the handbrake, gets a slide going. Basically, there's no attempt at saving it at this point because that's the intention. You want the car to actually spin. Basically, you want to at this point. You'd be forgiven for thinking that is a spin. But right here, you see he's turning right, and to get to that point, he starts turn. He puts in even more lock. So instead of applying opposite lock, he puts even more lock on, so to speak, because essentially what he wants is that when the car is backwards with that amount of lock, the front end is just going to come back around, and this is why they've went to that area.
But okay, so but because they want to. retain. No, they want to lose more grip. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, essentially. So there's two things. So here he's initiated the slide. The car has basically come around almost 180 on itself, and at this point, instead of applying opposite lock, he's applying even more right-hand lock for the front end to come back around. Now, at this point here, what you can do is, and the reason why they've wetted it is obviously to facilitate the front wheels sliding back around the other way. Now, a lot of road cars are obviously set up with brake bias towards the front because it's safer, and that's just how it is. Not saying that is the case here, because they could have modified it, but one of the things that you could do at this point is actually just slam the brakes on, and that would almost sort of lock up the front wheels and just, make them slide back around, which would be helped by the floor being wet.
Yeah, as I'm saying, I'm guessing that because he needs to go from right-hand lock to left-hand lock in a minute, and if he grips up here, he's going straight into this wall on the right.
Exactly.
We don't quite get the exit though.
This is my beef with this scene. Okay, so I understand that obviously Edgar Wright is starting to check me out criticizing Edgar Wright. His style is obviously quite jumpy, and there's a lot of cuts, and I understand that. Here, what he wants to do is be like, right, they're going backwards, and John Hamm is actually looking out the back window. That's how severe this stunt is, type thing. But I think it would have been probably just as easy to put a scene in that they just look at each other after the stunt and just look like, oh my God, what's just happened, and let us watch the whole thing. Because it's such a unique stunt. I've never seen a stunt like that be done. It would have been so good if we could have seen it play out.
Well, do you think it's because that there's a chance, if we come back, that the resolution to the stunt might not have been as dramatic as the look on John Hamm's face there? And I mean, and who doesn't like looking at John Hamm's face? Not this guy. So where he's coming around there, so we are denied it, so we have to imagine what the next shot would be.
Exactly.
Is it possible that the exit rotation was just not quite as quick or not quite as dramatic?
He's obviously scrubbed a lot of speed off to get to this point. So as it then comes back round, because he would not have engaged even in reverse at this point, so he would probably still be in the same gear. If he was in third gear there, he would have maybe gone down to second, or even third. It actually looks like he's in first when he comes out of here. But it's exactly that. They've scrubbed so much speed off that the exit is not as flamboyant as you'd probably want it to be. So what would maybe happen, again, if we got to see the whole scene, you'd probably just see the car scrub all that speed off, actually come back around, but then just and just kind of pull away not so dynamically.
There's a lot of looking over shoulders, because frankly, he didn't need to do that to get through that gap. I mean, it was just a fairly standard, just a little bit right and then left. But where's the fun in that, right? This movie's all about doing everything just a little bit too more extreme. I mean, to be honest, we could make an entire movie just about these sequences. That is a great turn. That's something you see a lot in rallying. So, and this, as you can tell straight away, is done with a four-wheel drive car, the most likely the souped-up one, and it's a technique that's used in rally a lot. Basically, you've got such a tight turn there. You're coming at quite a lot of speed. It's one of those things that, especially when you're running away from the police, I guess. There's the slowing down here and going down the gears and then trying to find your racing line, so to speak, it just does not pay off. It's such a tight corner that you're just better off sending it, pulling the handbrake and basically getting the car to do a 180 and then just smash the throttle and use the power to get yourself out of the corner.
It is a great stunt, apart from one thing. If you notice, as they approach that left-hander, if we go frame by frame, he's in
neutral.
He's in high gear, and he goes from 6th to 5th.
Well, you'd need the wheels to be going fast.
Absolutely not. Not in 5th. You've got no torque.
That's just one of those editing faux pas, I'd say.
I've always wondered about this. How does he flick out is he meant to have flicked out the stingers without actually puncturing his own tyre?
Oh, look at his face, he means it. Look at that.
That's another example of our classic face.
So what's he doing here? I did think about this as well.
I mean, going sideways over it is not going to stop it from bursting, right?
Yeah, no, in theory, no. But the whole point of it is that if you hit it sideways, it would just bounce off your rim, basically. So
would it though?
I don't think so. I mean, it's quite low-profile tyres.
I'd say we're coming to the segment where he has to figure out how to actually escape from the clutches of the police.
That's it.
Another gratuitous all-wheel slide, and somehow it goes from a motorway to a downtown road. We have to kind of skip over that.
But there is a video where they actually map out the
route
on YouTube. They actually map out the chasing, and it is all done in Atlanta.
Oh, yeah, that's quite a jump. That would. Did they not have to do anything to the suspension to survive that and not collapse?
Not that I heard of.
Fair enough. So, also not recommended, and I think it goes without saying, don't try any of this. Don't even consider it, even if you have a car.
The first 2 red cars in the film ever.
You are right, these are the first 2 red cars. But that's a filmmaker's choice to kind of control the palette of colours on the show. But they do look close enough. Neither of them have a spoiler though.
And I think we're about to see the one CGI bit. So someone pulled the fuse out of the ABS.
Yeah, that is a... how hard would it be at that speed to control that from not spinning around with all wheels locked up? Because he doesn't even look like he touches the steering.
No, you would have no problem in terms of
so much
you're just
forward.
you're just locking up straight, going straight forward.
I'm amazed if someone did that to me on the motorway. I would probably...
You wouldn't carry on driving.
No, I'd slow down. I would want to get the hell away from that person.
Especially what he's about to do.
I know. Also not recommended.
But I believe
at home.
this is CGI.
It's very hard to shoot down through a helicopter.
Exactly. So this is basically probably the most CGI shot of the whole
movie.
The whole scene, at least.
Yeah.
Right. So if he accelerates right now, and you're in the car, if you're in either car, what would you do? Would you do what these guys did and pull into the other lane and maintain the exact same speed and formation?
Only if I was really motivated at giving him the finger. Like, apart from that, I don't think there's any other reason. And these 2 dudes look very calm about the situation,
chill,
I must say. Yeah, it's just
wearing shades, relaxed.
Yeah, he's like, why are you still driving next to us? Why? That's the look. It's just like, we just did something crazy. You should not still be there. But it's all over, and then they go for the car park car. So just another gratuitous,
he was going so fast it just happens.
He's at that point though, he's got away from police as far as he can tell. So doing a drift at that point is just going to bring in extra attention. But there you go, and the scene comes to an end. And we've spent all this time talking, and we've only made it up to the opening titles of this film. There is so much packed in, and we're not going to be able to go into the entire film for obvious reasons. Just a quick summation.
Can I ask you one question before you do that? There is a scene when they switch into this other car.
Yeah.
Right? And this has been bugging me, where they kick the baby out the car. And then they eventually make it to an underground car park.
It is just after that,
and in that underground car park, the final flourish is a handbrake slide into a parking space. This is what is it? A Saturn. Is it a Saturn?
So they essentially, exactly. It's essentially a Vauxhall, I believe.
I don't think there's a handbrake on this car. What they have, I think they've got like a foot brake. Can you do a handbrake turn with a foot brake?
You can, operated handbrake? Yeah. So it's funny that you say that. So a perfect example of that is, I don't know if you've seen a video that was released this year, pretty recently, of Vaughn Gittin Jr., obviously the RTR owner. They went to the Nürburgring to try and drift the Nürburgring in his very, very powerful Mustang, and it was rained off. So what do you do when you pay hundreds and hundreds of thousands of pounds to have the Nürburgring just for yourself, and then it rains off? You just have a bit of fun with what you can, and they had an F-150 Raptor there, and what they had to do is basically just, obviously it's only got a foot handbrake, you know what I mean? So it's
a foot parking brake,
foot
activated parking brake,
a foot activated parking brake, and by taking a fuse out and or some other modifications that you can do, you can stop it from locking. So essentially, it just becomes...
That must just be a pin somewhere that you pull out.
I believe so.
Because it's a mechanical, it's fully linkage-based.
It's something relatively easy to do. And at that point, what you have to do is essentially drive into the corner and kind of try and do maybe a bit of a scanny flick or whatever, and then just sort of press the handbrake until you sort of feel it locking and start sliding, and then you can come off it. So it is possible.
Would the mother of the child who owned that car have made those modifications.
Absolutely. So she would come out.
And is that why the baby wasn't strapped in?
You never know.
She just lives life on the edge.
Exactly that. It's exactly that.
Then they picked the right car. It's a really great coincidence that they picked the one Saturn that they spotted from the outside.
Absolutely.
You've had your foot activated.
The
Parking
tyre
brake
wear, the tyre wear on the back was a bit
like,
more.
that's it. You're just like, oh yeah, you know what you're doing.
Yeah.
Right, the movie goes on and has a whole load of great scenes, but unfortunately we can't. We've run out of time, so we're going to have to draw a line under it. But so, final words on the film. George, what do you think of Baby Driver as a whole, as a car person and a movie lover?
As a whole, I like it. I love Edgar Wright. He's very good. I like the movie overall. Storyline wise, yeah, there are some holes, as Rory said. In terms of driving, yeah, although it's not perfect, I think it's pretty much the best we have up until now, especially definitely of the modern era car chase type movies. There's a lot to it. There's a lot to break down, as we just did. I think it represents real driving better than a lot of other movies out there.
Rory?
Unlikable main character. Top heavy in terms of the stunts being great at the beginning and petering out towards the end. But if you switch your brain cells off, it's fun.
I tend to err on the side of being a fan of a film that tries to do as much of it as possible in camera. And when the leading car movie franchise in the world now barely has any cars left in it, I'm very grateful where someone has gone out and go, you know what, we're going to actually smash some metal on this one. So from that point alone, it's well worth your time. Leave your comments below on what you think is the best part of Baby Driver, and if there's any other films you think you would like us to give this treatment to, please also leave us a comment. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon to make sure that you're notified every time we put out another movie. But for now, thank you, Rory.
You're welcome.
Thank you, George.
My pleasure.
And we'll see you next time.
There you have it. Thank you for making it all the way to the end. I'm sure not all of you made it this far, but if you have, I'm hoping that you've got some solid constructive feedback to give us in the comments below. All of that will go towards us making a decision whether to make more of these and indeed how to shape those in future. And if you have any ideas for movies we can cover in this show, or ideas for how to change the show, or for completely different shows, we're really much open to your ideas. All we want to do is create the best kind of car content we can for you, and this is just another idea we wanted to put in front of you. As I said, leave your comments below and we'll see you next time.